Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your favorite weekly podcast on investing, the Geopolitical Investors Podcast here on our channel, the Geopolitical Investing Cafe. I am your host, Javier Novoa, and I'm here to take you through our week in investing, through some of my ideas and my theses, and just through some of my general views and discussions on investing. This is sort of like my journal note. I am not an investment advisor. I am simply a normal guy who enjoys studying geopolitics and wants to make outsized, massive returns. Guys, I am still looking for that once a year, maybe once every 2 years, levered bet that's going to generate me 5, 10, 100 times my money every single year, every single 2 years. Keep watching this channel. Subscribe to this channel, guys. Now, I'm asking for subscribers at this early stage. I'm sort of glad it's a small channel because I can talk about all this freely. Once we start getting to a few thousand subscribers, I will be sort of jittery about sharing all of my investment thoughts, and we might have to go private. I may still share them because I have a burning desire to help others also get out of working for a job, get out of working for the man. But for now, it's a small group, and I'm sort of glad of that. So if you want to join this small community of geopolitical investors, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button on our videos. But if you don't, I'm not worried about it because, again, I'm just here as sort of my personal journal and to share with very few people who might have a like mind and want to come along with me. Now, I say I'm not an investment expert. It's very interesting, and I'm sort of flattered that we have been getting some comments and questions. On one of our videos, someone asked a question about some sort of complex crypto transaction. I'm not sure if it was a joke or it was actually a person or it was a bot, but they had given me a seed phrase or something. You see it on the comments to one of our videos, but those are not the kind of questions to ask me, guys. I am not an investment advisor, an investment expert. Again, I'm a normal guy who's trying to make a good amount of money, trying to make outsized returns. If you want to make normal returns, if you want to retire at 65 with $200,000, 4% a year compounded, go ahead and talk to an investment advisor. If you want to get 10, 100 times returns and retire in the next few years, keep watching this channel, but it's not advice, guys. It's just a conversation among friends. The kind of questions to ask me would be, where do you see the geopolitical situation in such and such a place going in the next few months? And if I have not researched it, we can research it together, talk about it together, and perhaps find an investment thesis. So please do comment and question and discuss. I want to build a community here on the YouTube channel and perhaps later on other platforms. Please do join in those discussions. So this week was a very interesting week, guys, and it was a very advantageous and prosperous week for the Geopolitical Investing Cafe. If you've been following our channel, a lot of people have not watched it. On Monday, see everything I do right now, guys, I'm posting it. And that's the advantage of subscribing to this channel, because you're gonna get everything that I do, because I want to timestamp everything that I do so I can show people later, here's what I said, and here's what happened. If anyone denies that I had predicted something or said something, they can easily look at the videos. Of course, that cuts both ways. When I make a huge mistake, I'm not going to hide it from you guys. I'll say, hey, I made this mistake and I lost a lot of money, and here's the lesson I learned from that, or the lessons I learned from that. So this is sort of like my trading and investing journal. But if you follow our channel, on Monday, I bought call options in Jack in the Box. Just one block of call options. Because again, my bet on Jack in the Box is not 100% confidence bet. It's probably right now about 40 to 50% confidence. That's why I'm investing a little bit more in the company. But I did invest in those options. On Wednesday, when the earnings call came, it was mixed because there were 2.5% losses in same-store sales, but earnings per share went up, and there was a lot of good news on the Jack in the Box app and other web-based platforms that people were using it more. I think Jack in the Box has a lot of expansion, and the worst, they've got a new CFO. They have a new CFO, and I am optimistic about the future. I am putting a little bit more of my money into that. Also, Bitcoin, guys. Bitcoin has been flirting with $100. 2 days ago, it got to $99, and we are keeping our eye on that. Bitcoin is by far the most prosperous bet in terms of at least returns that I have not sold yet, profits I have not taken, but it is one of the most prosperous bets that I've ever put on. Of course, it was before I started this channel, so in a sense it might not count, but I still think Bitcoin is a buy, and I am dollar cost averaging every month into Bitcoin. I'm dollar cost averaging into silver, I'm dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, and I'm dollar cost averaging into Jack in the Box. I have a few more ETFs and stocks I'm looking at. We will discuss some of them in the show, but basically, last week I talked about how I'm setting up my portfolio. And my portfolio right now is basically this. Again, I believe with all of the great traders like George Soros, like many great traders who said, you make your money when you do nothing. George Soros famously said, a man can only be successful when he has a lot of spare time. Time must be heavy on his hands, which means we're not always trading. I'm not a Wall Street guy. I'm not working for any Wall Street firm, so I don't have to trade every day. I don't have to trade every month. I can do one trade every 1 or 2 years, and guys, it's going to be 100% portfolio. Well, realistically, 50 to 100% whole portfolio, massive levered trade that risks either losing all my money or having outsized gains, which is why I want to make sure that my thesis on that is as ironclad as possible, which is why I'm going to test it, and I'm going to walk you through my process when that happens. I am looking for that bet. I have not found it yet. In the meantime, I want to keep my money, and I want to basically steadily grow it, and I want to at least beat inflation. It's a lot better than keeping it in the bank. And the way I'm doing that is these other portfolios, like investing in good businesses, swing trades, which sort of Jack in the Box is one. There might be others that I have on my mind that I'm going to share with you here in this podcast this evening. But that's what we're about. This is basically an investment fund where I'm sharing with you, and I hope that we can exchange ideas if you join the channel and you comment in the comments below. So it was a very, very interesting week, not only on Wall Street, but in the world. World War III, guys. The Biden administration has decided to sell these missiles to Ukraine, and Russia has already launched a missile that's very similar to an ICBM at Ukraine for the first time in history, ladies and gentlemen. And they have capabilities of reaching Europe and even the United States, according to things that I've read on the news and things that I've seen. It is a very delicate situation. Looks like a powder keg. And again, geopolitically, I hope that the Russians are going to say, let's wait for Trump, because Trump can reverse this and not do anything really crazy. We can only hope for that. And in the meantime, how can we make money on whatever the outcome would be? We'd have to tabletop exercise it. I'm going to be talking about that here, if not today, then in the next few weeks. I'm still researching the situation. But let's go into the news, guys. The trading week. Markets started on Monday, November 18th. Markets started the week cautiously as investors weighed geopolitical tensions. See how great it is to be a geopolitical investor. Geopolitical tensions are front and center in the markets. And upcoming Federal Reserve remarks. The S&P 500 and Dow Jones posted modest gains, while the NASDAQ underperformed and concerns over tech valuations. It was Meet Kevin's 6 days in a row, guys, of the NASDAQ being down, and that was supposed to signify some craziness in the economy. We'll see what happens with that, and indeed how to capitalize on that. Bond yields ticked higher, reflecting reduced expectations of near-term Fed rate cuts. Tuesday, November 19th, cyclicals and small cap stocks gained momentum as optimism about potential fiscal stimulus the irrationality of it. If you know Austrian economics, the irrationality of fiscal stimulus. But the people who are getting the money first are happy. The people who are getting the money first are very happy, because if you study Murray Rothbard's The Mystery of Banking, you'll realize that when the money is printed, it first goes to certain firms and they're able to purchase assets at current prices. When it comes down to the normal guy, we have to buy at inflated prices, and by then nobody can afford the assets. Who made all the money? The people who printed the money and the people nearest to the trough. So of course they were optimistic on that. The next U.S. administration drove sentiment. Energy stocks rebounded with oil prices recovering slightly from earlier losses. Treasury yields remained stable despite housing data indicating declining starts and permits. We will watch the housing market very closely, guys, because if and when that crashes, huge opportunities, huge leverage opportunities will be there. And we will be there to take advantage of those opportunities. Wednesday, November 20th, markets rallied broadly, led by industrials and financials as the Dow surged. Retail earnings painted a mixed picture, with companies like Walmart reporting strong results, while others like Target showed weaker holiday season forecasts. The 10-year Treasury yield dipped as Fed minutes hinted at a potential pause in rate hikes. I think it's going to be a good holiday season, guys. I think it's going to be a good holiday season for retailers. You can note that I said this on November 24th. We will see, but I think sentiment has already heightened due to the next administration, and you will see that. Again, as I said in the last podcast, people may be in debt, but they don't care, guys. We're Americans, and we don't care. We will keep spending money. Like a friend of mine was talking about, we've seen once a homeless person order from Instacart. So think about that in your forecasts. Thursday, November 21st, tech stocks struggled as rotation continued into value and cyclicals, with Nvidia down over 3%. As you will see in my Jim Rogers interview that I did months ago, it's posted on this channel. Tech is a bubble, guys. We know it. The only question is, how do we cash in on that bubble? Is it time to start shorting? It's something that I'm thinking about. Again, I'm not an investment advisor, but I'm researching it. This weighed on the NASDAQ, while the S&P 500 and Dow saw gains, with the latter reaching a record high. Investor focus turned to economic data, suggesting resilience in retail and industrial production. Looks like we're actually being set up, guys, for a strong economic recovery if Trump doesn't screw it up with this fiscal stimulus they have in mind. Friday, December 22nd, markets capped the week on a positive note, with the Dow and S&P 500 advancing, AI-focused companies underperforming, reflecting tighter export restrictions to China. Bond yields fell slightly, signaling market stability. The VIX, a measure of market volatility, also dropped, indicating growing investor confidence, of course, because they think with the absence of regulation, the free market is going to be unleashed. I think the next 5 years are going to make the most new millionaires, and indeed people living free, which is sort of the goal of my channel, in history. For the week, the S&P 500, Dow Jones, and NASDAQ gained 1.68%, 1.96%, and 1.73%, respectively. Energy and industrial sectors led the way, supported by strong earnings in cyclical stocks and optimism about upcoming policy shifts. Bond markets saw modest fluctuation, with the 10-year Treasury yield settling at 4.41%. I don't understand how people who are pro huge regulations on industry don't see how they're shooting themselves in the foot. Once you even hint at taking off regulations, prosperity goes up immediately just with the hint of it. And we hope they follow through. Look at the current economic miracle now going on in Argentina, which is why also I'm looking at things to invest in Argentina. the way we invest here on the Geopolitical Investing Cafe. Stay tuned for more of that. This blend of economic indicators, secular rotations, and policy anticipation shaped a dynamic week for investors. These trends highlight opportunities in value and cyclical plays while underscoring risks in tech and export-dependent sectors. So, of course, there's risk in the bubbles. Of course, that's the way to make the most amount of money, but we have to know when to get out. So, in the vein of Jack and the Boss, and this is where this really ties in with geopolitical investing, the Trump administration, as we said, is going to be like a tide that rises all boats. And I believe the restaurant industry is going to hugely benefit from this. I would be looking at key restaurant stocks like Darden, like Yum Brands, and like the people who own Popeyes and Burger King. I think it's Restaurants International, based in Canada. I would be looking at those as well as new startup restaurants. I think it's really going to be a big opportunity for new restaurants, for restaurants who are trying to get out of trouble. Even people like Red Lobster. I wish Red Lobster was still part of Darden. It is not. It's now part of a private equity firm. But we will be keeping our eyes on restaurants and the whole service sector, the entertainment sector, restaurant sector. I think it stands to grow a lot under Trump presidency. So talking about Trump's cabinet, and I'm going to let you into some of my research techniques here and some of my prompts for research. Trump's cabinet sort of indicates the fact that we're living in an accelerated polarization in the world, in geopolitics and in society, but those polarities are being brought together. Let me sort of explain what I mean. You have a polarity of the right and the left, of course, but you have a polarity on both right and left that made their apotheosis, so to speak, their heightened point or their meeting point in Trump. And this is a sort of populism, because you have populism on the left, but the establishment of the left and the Democrats have been trying to deny this populism and have been trying to pull people back into this institutions-based, authorities-based, ossified center that has been ruling the country for over 80 years, 70 years, some may say. Populism is the exact opposite, and it's met its head, so to speak, in the Trump Republicans. They're broken out of the establishment. But Trump has to work with the establishment, the neocon establishment, which is basically was in control of the party and still is in control of large segments. That's why he's bringing people into his cabinets that seem pro-war, although Trump is very anti-war. These are two poles, and they're going to be working themselves out, and we're going to see what comes out. We can only analyze and then try to bet on what we think is going to happen. The situation of war and peace in the world is also following this prototype of the polarities together. So we see simultaneously, let's say with Iran, North Korea, and Cuba, we see with people like Marco Rubio the acceleration towards more conflict, more war, but we also see in the negotiation skills of Trump and in the inclinations of Trump towards peace, the greatest chance for peace that we've ever seen, probably since the Obama treaty with Iran. So we have the opportunity for war, and we have the opportunity for peace. So in the war camp, what if this thing spirals out of control? God forbid, we don't want that to happen. But what will be our bets? And this is the time, guys, to use tools like AI, tools like ChatGPT to prompt this. So I'm going to do this here live. I want to show you how I use ChatGPT as a prompt. Of course, it's good for generating ideas. Then, of course, you have to go independently and do the research. And at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, and it's all going to be based on your feelings. It's all going to be based on your conviction, whether you bet or how you bet. But here's the best way to talk to ChatGPT that I figured out. You have to turn ChatGPT into a character. I've tried this many times. I've asked ChatGPT, for example, what price do you think Jack and the Boss is going to lead to? And ChatGPT will usually tell you, I can't answer that question, I'm an AI platform, blah, blah, blah. But, for example, George Soros is one of the greatest traders in the world, and he knows how to trade volatility. He knows how to trade tension. So what I will do is I will say, ChatGPT, I will say, let us say you are George Soros. George, you see the recent tensions between Ukraine and Russia with the use of these new American missiles. Do you predict an all-out world war? What do you predict? And what would be your trades to profit from whatever outcome occurs? So I asked that question to ChatGPT. I'm going to show you the answer. Again, these are not always perfect. They're not fail-proof, but they're prompts to get you started in research. So, as George Soros, a hypothetical analysis of the Ukraine-Russia tensions and potential trades would involve assessing geopolitical dynamics, their impact on global markets, and strategies to hedge or profit. Here's a breakdown. Predictions. Escalation likelihood. While a full-scale world war remains unlikely due to nuclear deterrence and economic interdependence, I find that fair, heightened tensions could prolong regional conflict. The introduction of advanced American missiles increases risks of broader NATO involvement, pushing Russia to escalate regionally, but likely avoiding global confrontation. Economic implications. Escalated conflict could disrupt global energy supplies, specifically in Europe, raising oil and natural gas prices. Grain exports from Ukraine might be further hampered, exacerbating food insecurity in dependent regions like Africa and the Middle East. Diplomatic outcomes. Potential peace negotiations might emerge under pressure from economic strain in both Russia and the West. Here's this polarity again, guys, that I was just talking about. However, these are long-term prospects contingent on battlefield dynamics. Trades to consider. Energy markets. Long positions buy oil futures or shares of major oil companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, or Oxy, I could add, anticipating a price spike if supply chains face disruptions. It's not something we want to happen, but we're preparing. European energy. Invest in natural gas futures or companies focused on LNG imports to Europe like Cheniere Energy to capitalize on Europe's need to diversify away from Russian gas. Defense sector. Long positions. Defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman could benefit from increased NATO spending and demand for advanced weaponry, agricultural commodities, long grain futures. It tells you currencies to invest in, long US dollar or CHF. It's a great tool, guys. It's a great tool to research. So I will be researching some of these positions. I don't think an all-out war is going to occur because the Russians see that Trump's coming in, and Trump wants to negotiate a quick settlement and end to this conflict. So I think both sides are going to show restraint. Certainly the oil market has not gone out of control, and it's a traditional predictor of these things. So I'm not making any bets yet, but it's something that I'll continue to research, and it's something that the geopolitical investor should have in his ambit, in his radar. So it was another wild week, ladies and gentlemen, with Trump's cabinet picks. Of course, what would you expect? Would you expect anything differently? Of course, Matt Gaetz' chances were doomed the moment he went through the door. Some very powerful people did not want Gaetz to get into that department. I am still wary if RFK Jr. is going to be confirmed. I think he will be, and I hope he will be. Guys, I am working on the RFK trade. I have some theses as to a massive trade. This might be the trade of the year, guys. This might be the trade of the year with the RFK trade. I'm still researching, and I'm not going to jinx it by giving it out now, but in some of the next podcasts, and when I crystallize it, when it crystallizes in my mind due to all of the research that I'm doing on that, I am all in. I am going to be giving the details of our RFK Jr. trade and when we entered. And of course, the entree point is one of the most important points. But here's a little summary so far of what's going on with Trump's cabinet picks. Note, I think as geopolitical investors, we have to keep up as much as we can with every single Trump cabinet pick, because every single one of them and their statements are going to generate some information that might become either a medium-sized, even small, or bigger geopolitical trade. So we look at Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. It looks like Marco Rubio is going to be a shoo-in for Secretary of State. It's going to be very easy for him to be confirmed. He is long respected. He is long a member of the establishment. That's why a lot of people don't trust his pick, but he will be confirmed. Rubio is expected to focus on a more assertive foreign policy, especially regarding China and Latin America. His appointment signals a continuation of Trump's America First strategy, potentially impacting international relations in sectors reliant on global trade, such as technology and agriculture. How will it impact it? And are Rubio and some of these other gentlemen going to be allowed to carry out the extent of their policy ideas? Or are they going to be used as bargaining chips by Trump, as he described his time with John Bolton? He said they used Bolton to scare others, but he never took his policy pronouncements very seriously. Scott Bessent as Treasury Secretary, a former hedge fund manager, and much to the excitement of people on Zero Hedge, I saw an article on there talking about a short seller as the Treasury Secretary. That will be a great play. Bessent is a billionaire. He supports tax cuts and deregulation. That's going to be good news for the market as a whole, guys. It's going to be good news for innovation. It's going to be good news for crypto. There are a lot of trades, a lot of strategies that we could piece together there. I think it'll just be an auxiliary helping our other moves. So stay tuned for that. His influence may lead to policies favoring financial market growth. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, known for her independent stance and critique of U.S. foreign interventions, Gabbard's approach may lead to shifts in defense and cybersecurity policy. This could act as a counterbalance to Rubio and the hawks that he has on there. I think Trump wants to get people of multiple polarities, multiple opinions on the same team so as to balance each other out. We're going to have to sort of gauge the relative influence of any of those positions on our investment strategies and tweak accordingly. That's our job here at the Geopolitical Investors Cafe. Gabbard's approach may lead to shifts in defense cybersecurity policy affecting defense contractors and tech firms. Do we short defense contractors, or will growing chaos throughout the world heighten their shares? That's something that remains to be seen, and we have to work that out. Lee Zeldin, EPA Administrator. I think this is a great pick, ladies and gentlemen. Zeldin's history suggests a likely rollback of environmental regulations, potentially benefiting fossil fuel industries while raising concerns for renewable energy companies. Now, the Oxy trade. And Oxy I just simply use as sort of a prototype for all oil companies and oil trades. USO, ETF, take as you will. Will the more lax energy policies lead to lower share prices for those companies because of the now abundance of oil and so on and new drilling? Or will it lead to a rise in those shares due to the new business that these companies are performing? I think that's going to be a seesaw that we have to simply use our intuition and our knowledge to sort of navigate. We'll try to do that, and we'll try to come up with trades for that. The big trade, guys, it's going to be obvious. Of course, it's going to be after research, but it's going to be obvious. It's going to be so obvious that we're going to be confident enough to bet a large amount of our portfolios on that. I don't think it's going to be this. Elise Stefanik, UN Ambassador, oh my God. Don't get me started on this, but Stefanik's focus on conservative foreign policy priorities could reshape U.S. involvement in international organizations, with potential implications for multinational corporations operating in politically sensitive regions. So some stocks to consider, of course, be energy, defense and cybersecurity, and financial markets, of course. And this mix, again, is going to make it more complex to try to sketch out that strategy. That's our benefit, guys. All the strategy was obvious. Everyone would be in it, therefore taking away our edge. I still think the main focus, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and some of the other picks he has below him, betting on non-traditional stocks, non-traditional industries, perhaps organic farming. Again, I don't want to talk about too much. I am allowing that bet to crystallize in my mind, and I will present it to you as well as our entree point when it happens. I had to pause last week and make a video about my Lunar mistake. Of course, for those of you who didn't see the video, Lunar is Intuitive Machines, and I put a bet in Intuitive Machines last February when they launched their robot to the moon, and guys, I doubled my money. I bet on it, and I believe it was about $6 a share or something like that. And I almost doubled my money. I remember it went to about 11. But the problem is I didn't sell. Why? Because it was before the launch. It was a few days before the launch. And I'm not sure if I should have sold, because according to my thesis, I should not have sold. But I also should have had a price cap to say, okay, if for some crazy reason the stock doubles, I should sell. But I was looking to make a 2-3x. So I kept it. Of course, they launched that robot, and the robot supposedly fell on its side on Mars. It tripped over a rock and fell on its side, was not able to then do all of the projects that it was set out to do. And so the stock fell back to 765 and stayed flat there for about 6 months. Now, just over the last month, guys, the stock has shot up from $5 to where it is now at an all-year high of $15.12. Of course, 2 years ago it was in the 40s, which is why I still have somewhat of an optimism. Now, I've just been playing around with this stock in my mind. Is this a stock that I should put into my swing trade portfolio? And I don't like the fact that it's at an all-time high, guys, but that's not, or it's at a year high at least. That's not in itself a reason not to buy, but what I always ask before I buy a stock is, why does it have to be this one? I don't want my portfolios to be diluted with too many stocks. I think right now the Jack bet is fine, but I do want to make money on Lunar if it goes up, and I think it has a lot of opportunity to go up. I'm fully aware that I have bias, and that I have confirmation bias, and that I also, this is a stock that is emotionally important for me because I want to recoup my losses, although they're very small losses. I think I broke even, but I want to make a gain on the stock, which is why this is very dangerous, which is why I want to walk you through my thought process. I'm still contemplating on Lunar. Until something within me tells me to buy Lunar, I'm not going to buy it, but if I do, I will tell you why on the channel. But I did look up what are analysts saying about Lunar here on ChatGPT, and let's see what they said. Lunar stock has experienced significant gains recently due to a combination of strong financial performance and new government contracts. So they've got new contracts, new performance. There's a very rational explanation as to why they're rising, guys. So the question is, will they continue to rise, and to what level? This is a geopolitical bet, by the way, guys, because it depends a lot on governments. Geopolitics is mostly about what governments are deciding, and of course demographics and other factors. But in its latest earnings report, the company announced a 359% year-over-year revenue increase for Q3 in 2024. And I hit myself, guys, because the mistake that I made in this stock, and I explained it in my video that I talked about Lunar, I said, well, I think Lunar's a good company. I think it has a future, and I don't think it's going to fold. And it's not a huge amount of money that I put into this bet anyway. It was a medium-sized conviction bet. So I'm just going to keep my shares in Lunar, and I'll just ride it until it goes up. And I should have done that, guys. That was my first instinct. But what did I do? I got bored with it, and after a month, I said, no, this isn't going anywhere, and I sold it. Believe me, here at the Geopolitical Investors Cafe, we will take that lesson to heart. I will take that lesson to heart. When I say I'm going to hold on to something, especially if it doesn't comprise of a huge part of my portfolio, I will just hold on to that. I think the worst that could happen is that we could lose all the money, but I think I'll be smart enough to get out before I lose all my money. I should have stayed in Lunar. I would have been 100% up. So yeah, a few people who watch our channel, subscribe to our channel, have asked me, what's your research methodology? What do you spend your time doing? So I just want to give you a little entree, a little gateway into what I spend my time doing. Basically, when I go to work, when I go outside, I basically look for investment opportunities, guys. I'm always working. I'm looking at what people are buying. I'm looking at what people are wearing. I try to spot opportunities and trends. I'm, of course, a news junkie, and I consume a lot of news. I like to watch Al Jazeera English. I like to watch channels that are not within the mainstream. I also consume the normal news. I love Zero Hedge. I like consuming financial news. And what I do is I basically spend 4 hours a day researching for geopolitical trends or for any trends. So I'll go on YouTube, I'll go on TikTok. People from the outside will say, Javier, what are you doing? You're just chilling out. But no, I'm researching investment ideas. And I look on news sites and I look at what's going on. And I also spend a good amount of time journaling, a good amount of time contemplating. And I ask myself, what do you see as a trend emerging? Because a lot of this has to do with intuition. If you read The Intuitive Investor by Jason Apollo Voss, you will see the extent to which intuition makes for a successful investor. We interviewed Jason Apollo Voss on this channel. It's only got 9 views so far, but you can go and look at my interview with Jason Apollo Voss. But anyway, I spend a lot of time doing that. And I gather ideas and I sort of research them. I don't go all hardcore in researching them, but I research them and I sort of let my consciousness guide me to a good idea. Now, once an idea clicks, once I say, hey, this is a good idea, then I will go all in. I'll spend hours and days researching that idea. I'll do the whole investment checklist. I'll do the value investment checklist. I'll even look at technical indicators. And then I'll journal and say, what is a trade that I could put together to maximally benefit from the upside of this trade while at the same time not losing my shirt when the trade goes down. That's how I research. Now, it's been months since I found this huge trade. I don't expect it to come around much. I expect it to come around once or twice a year. I put this channel up so that when those trades come, I could talk about my thesis, discuss it, refine it, then execute that trade, and I will have the documentary and video evidence, so to speak, of putting on those trades. Again, that's why I created this channel. So what are some things I'm looking at, guys? I will share a little bit with you from my investment ideas list, and you can go and look into these and see if you have any information. So how can I invest in Cuba? How can I make money on the North America World Cup? By the way, that's something that's coming up next year. There are going to be a lot of games in North America for the World Cup. There are going to be games in Dallas. How can we make money off that, guys? Something I'm researching, and if you have any ideas to share, please share them. I will share my ideas with you. Invest in Jin Korean, which is a Korean barbecue that my wife and I really like. Invest in North Texas Asian community, gold mining stocks. Follow members of Congress trades and ideas. Now, that's another thing because members of Congress basically do insider trading, and they have to list their trades publicly. So from time to time, I look at members of Congress trades. They're probably good trades, and I'll see if I have a conviction enough to follow those trades. You could do that as well. Invest in Argentina. I talked about this on the show before. Invest in dogs of the Dow, which are low-performing Dow Jones stocks that tend to go up. Invest in gaming. Because, guys, there are more gamers, and gaming is something that I've been woefully out of the loop in since I was 8 years old. Can invest in that. Invest in Culturel, invest in the election, which I probably should delete that because the election's over. Gambling, betting, the poly market's always an idea to make money. And many others, guys. So basically, I list investment topics, and these are just things for me to say, hey, research this and see if you find anything. And this, when I find that jewel that comes after 1,000 ideas that I then look more into, I have a high conviction trade, and then I start composing my thesis. That's how I do things here. That's how we do things on the Geopolitical Investing Cafe. So guys, thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you watching the podcast. If you find value in this channel, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and share the videos. Most of all, give us your comments so that we can together make money. I am Javier with the Geopolitical Investors Cafe. Until very soon, we'll be putting out videos daily, but until next week, have a wonderful week in the markets, guys. Ciao.